Hey guys, welcome back my channel, The Learning Destinations. I'm your host Avinash, and today I bring up a most useful session, and this is related about the cloud security. Now just imagine if you work with the system where there are multiple parties are involved and your system has to give access to multiple parties. Now in such kind of scenarios, how you can enhance the cloud security, this is what we are going to understand from these sessions. There are mainly 4 to 5 security pillars generally which we consider for any cloud security enhancement, and those are WAF, Web Application Firewall, Security Group, and NACL. Now, hosting your resources in private subnet always gives an additional layer of security, and this is what we are going to learn from this session, that how we can create the VPC with servers in private subnet and NAT gateways. It becomes also most important when we work in two zone environment. And when I say two zone environment, it means one internet and another one is intranet. And whatever the resources which we host in internet zone, that must be part of public subnet. So there are many things we are going to understand from these sessions, especially how we can create the VPC, how we can create the public and private subnet, how we can associate with the public route and private route, where the internet gateway is implemented and where the NAT gateway is implemented. That everything we are going to understand from this session. So just sit back, relax and enjoy these sessions. And one more request guys, if you haven't yet subscribed my channel, then please do it now and press the bell icon as well.
Let me explain the setup through this diagram first. So we are going to create this VPC, and under this VPC we are going to create two public subnet and two private subnet. So we are going to host all the workload under this private subnet. Now why we are creating two public and two private subnet? So we can maintain the availability zone. Now let me explain you that how actually the traffic flows. So the request comes from the internet and enter into this VPC environment through this internet gateway. Now from the public route, traffic flows to application load balancer, and from here traffic flows to the workload. Now in between there is a auto scaling group. It means these workload are running through the auto scaling group, which is further pointing to application load balancer. Now auto scaling group is used to auto scale your workload. Now what is the use of this NAT gateway? So generally NAT gateway, it allows your workload to connect with the internet. It's a one-way traffic which we call the egress, where internet cannot connect to your workload, but your workload can connect to the internet. So in these sessions we are going to create this VPC gateway, two public subnet, two private subnet, public route tables, private route tables, NAT gateways, and then we are going to create the internet gateway. So in such a way we are going to create the complete VPC environment having the private subnet with the NAT gateways, and where the workload are running under the private subnet. So these are the things we are going to see practically under this session. Okay guys, so now I perform all the steps practically and I log in inside my AWS management console, and I am visiting under the VPC sections, where I am going to create the VPC. And I say create VPC. I give it the name here, my VPC only, and I keep it the CIDR range 0/24, and the name is totally customized. It depends on you. Whatever the name you want to give it, you can give it here, and also the CIDR range, if you have any choice you can keep it here. I say create VPC. Now our VPC has been successfully created, and which we can see under the VPC section. Here the my VPC you can see here, this one. Now I am going to create a subnet, two public subnet and two private subnet. So I am going to create my first public subnet, and which I am creating under this VPC. So I say my, or I can give it more specific name, public subnet -01, and I am assigning under this availability zone, and I am giving it the name, CIDR range. I say create subnet, Okay, so now my first subnet is created. I am going to create second subnet under the same VPC. And this time I am going to select the different availability zone, and CIDR range I can give here. Okay, let's give 96 and create subnet. So it is creating the second subnet. So our two public subnet is ready now. Let me show you. So these two public subnet is ready now. Now I am going to create a private subnet. There is no difference of public and private subnet until we assign to which route table. Once we assign it to a specific route table, then there is a difference between the public and private subnet. While creating it, there is no difference. To which route table you are assigning it, then it make it difference over there. Okay, and that is later in these sessions we are going to see it. So I am creating private subnet 01 and preference 1A, and this time I am giving the range. Okay, let's give it like this, 32. Create subnet. So this is my first private subnet. Okay, now create another private subnet, and if you see that I am creating in each availability zone, so I can maintain the availability zone hierarchy or scalability within the availability zone. So generally I am maintaining the high availability. And preference zone 1B, and CIDR range 10 node 0 node 0, and then I give here 64. I say create subnet. So now I have successfully created two public subnet and two private subnet, which you can see here. Let me little bit drag it down here. So two private subnet and two public subnet. Okay, now I am going to create the route tables, and I am going to assign these public subnet to public route and private subnet to private route. So now I am going to create two route tables, public route and private route. So here I go and create my public, or I can see directly public route, public hyphen route. Select VPC, create route tables, and I am going to assign the subnet. So this is the public route. Now I am going to assign public subnet to this public route, and where I can go edit subnet association, and public 01 and public subnet 02. I say save associations. In such a way I am going to create the private route, and I am going to associate the private subnet to private route. So let's create another route table, and I give it a name of private subnet, private route. Sorry, I give it a name of private route, and select under this VPC, create route table. Now subnet associations, edit subnet association, private 1, private 2. Okay, save associations. So under the private route there is a public subnet, sorry, under the private route there is a private subnet, and under the public route there is a public subnet. Public route, go to subnet sections, and here is a public subnet. Okay, now I am going to create internet gateway, which I further assign to this public subnet, public route. Now I am going to create the internet gateway. So basically I am going to create this internet gateway and which further assigned to this public route, so the communications to the public subnet, I mean whatever the resources in public subnet can directly reach to the internet. Okay, so and for that we need to create the internet gateway. So I say create internet gateway and I am giving it name my-izw my internet gateway, create subnet, create internet gateway. Now I need to assign it to the VPC which I have created previously. Attach to the VPC and select VPC here, my VPC, attach internet gateway. Now I need to assign this internet gateway to this public route. So I go route tables, I select public route, I go inside and I say route, edit routes. Here I write another routes, I select internet gateway and it will pop up save changes. Oh, valid here. So I give it name 000 save changes. Okay, now I am going to create the NAT gateway and which further the NAT gateway will be created under the public subnet here, and then this NAT gateway will be assigned to this private route table. Okay, time to create the NAT gateways. I think NAT gateways we need to create the elastic IP as well. So I create the NAT gateway and I say my NAT gateway, select subnet. So as I told you that we can assign it to the public subnet. Okay, so here you can create two NAT gateway and you can assign it to the two public subnets. So you will have even the high availability between the NAT gateways as well. But this is just a demo purpose. So I am going to create only one NAT gateway and I am going to create under one public subnet. Allocate elastic IP that is required for NAT gateway and create NAT gateway. NAT gateway, now this part NAT gateway is created under this public subnet. Now I am going to connect this NAT gateway to this private route. So I go to route table and I select the private route and then route propagation, or here I can say edit route. Here I will another add route. I say NAT gateway, this one, select this one, save changes. Okay, so now this private route is having the private subnet associated with it, but in the route it is having the NAT gateway assigned to it. Okay. So now this setup is completely designed and completely created. So now this internet gateway is assigned to this public route and then it is assigned to this public subnet and then further to the workload. Now I am not going to create the workload. I mean you can easily create the EC2 instances just for testing purpose. You can spin up over there one Apache web server or Nginx web server under this private subnet. Since I have already created the private subnet, so while creating your workload like EC2 instances, or if you creating the launch template that later you are going to use in the auto scaling mode, just create it in the private subnet. So your resources will be under the private subnet. So when you create the resources, while selecting the subnet, select the private subnet. So I think guys, the complete setup is ready, where we have created the VPC and then we have created two public and two private subnet, and then apart from that we have created two route tables. One is public, one is private, and we assign public subnet to the public route, we assign private subnet to the private route, and then we created the internet gateway, which further we assign to the VPC, and then after that we route to this public route, and then we have created NAT gateway under the public subnet, but this time we attach NAT gateway to the private route tables. Okay. Now we can see the entire flow here. If you come here, your VPC, and there is somewhere, yeah, resource mapping you can see here. Okay, let me drag it up. So you can see here, this is the VPC which we have created, and if you see this public route, so there is a two public subnet 01 and public subnet 02, which is connecting to the public route. And then after that, if you go to private route, you can see there is a two private subnet associated with this private route. Okay, perfect. So this one is successfully created. Perfect. Now one more thing, this is the manual work, and here you can see, okay, let me, one more thing I want to show you in entire pages. So here if you see the complete flow of internet gateway, so basically internet gateway is associated with the public route, and then it is attached with the public subnet. Okay, now NAT gateway is attached with the private route with the private subnet. However, this NAT gateway is the part of public subnet. However, this private route is part of this private subnet. Okay, so why we need to host this under the public subnet? So this NAT gateway will help you to connect your workload to the internet. However, this is the manual way we have created each resources one by one, but there is another way. If you see, there is a VPC and more. So if you select these options here, you can create, okay, let me increase this one. So now here you can create everything in one go, in one shot. So here you can select the CIDR range first, and then after that availability zone you want to host in one availability zone, two availability zone, number of public subnet which you want, number of private subnet you want, and you can scale it 2 to 4. And NAT gateways, if you want NAT gateways in two availability zone, you can select it here. And if you want to create VPC endpoint as well, that you can also define here, right? And then you can say create VPC. So before that, what I have done is I have created manually each resources. Okay, the idea was only to show you that how each and everything assigned it, right? So now you have completely figure it out in your mind that how the resources is linked to each other. If I at the first time, if I directly create in such a way, you might miss some of the point and you may not get exactly the idea that how each resources is connecting to each other. That is why I have shown you manually. But if you want to create, if you are experienced, then you can create all these resources in one shot through the VPC and more. So this is what, guys, I wanted to show you. I hope you really enjoyed these sessions. So don't forget to like and share it within your network. So okay guys, that's all from this lecture. I hope you really enjoyed these sessions. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Till the time, thank you so much for watching this. Bye bye.